Spirit Addicts by Sideline Sports Network. We've got a lot to cover tonight, but I think we're going to do it pretty quickly. Probably going to be a pretty interesting video. You probably won't get bored with this one at all. And if you do, oh well, you'll get over it. As always, Game Day Vodka is who is the primary sponsor of Spirit Addicts by Sideline Sports Network. We really respect and appreciate the partnership that we have with Game Day Vodka. They are an American-made and American distilled and American bottled vodka company. They have a new way of distilling vodka. It is distilled 6 times over. It is compressed or nitrated with CO2 somehow, and it makes it extremely smooth. So if you haven't tried it, please go to your local Publix or ABC Wine and Spirits. Or if you don't have one of those near you, you can go to GameDayVodka.com as long as you're 21 years or older and order it. With that, guys, obviously the transfer portal is going nuts as it started off Monday of this week. It's not slowed down any, if at anything else, it has gotten even more crowded. We've got Noes that are leaving, a lot less than I expected in the first place. And we've got guys that are transferring to us. We got guys that are interested in coming here. We've got official visits coming left and right from transfer guys and others. We talked about this on the last episode a little bit. It was sad to see Amari Gaynor into the transfer portal. It was a bittersweet moment. But we talked about that last episode, so I won't go too deep into that one. But what I will bring up is we've got, let me start. Is it Jaheim Bell, the recruit, right? Correct?
He's South Carolina tight end.
That's right. So he's crystal balled to come to Florida State, which I don't know why they release crystal balls for transfer portal guys, but maybe that's a thing and I just didn't know it. But he's crystal balled to come to Florida State. The new NIL Battles In has been on the strategy behind what they're doing was, I give them kudos to be announcing their comebacks if they're coming back to Florida State with the announcement coming from the newest NIL collective at Florida State. There's no better way to get your name out there and respected very quickly, because obviously you're probably doing a deal for each student athlete that's coming back to post that. So they're not only getting their name out there, but they're paying these athletes probably handsomely to let them put their picture in their graphic and move forward, etc. Before we go too deep into all of the guys that are coming and going, I do want to get y'all's first initial reaction about Battles In Collective. Taylor, you can start. What are your first thoughts and feelings on them?
I mean, you really look at it throughout the years of Florida State, you've seen a lot of transfers coming in and out of the program at this point. Florida State is at a point in their program history right now where they're 9-3, looking to be 10-3 after the bowl game, hopefully. And you've gotten to this high point of being successful. Now you're trying to bring and get some of those returning guys back. Specifically, Jordan Travis was one need that you really, really needed to get done. I think there was a lot of factors that go into it, how you didn't want some of these players leaving the team, changing the culture of the locker room, etc. So I think this is a situation where in today's climate, transfer portal is an all-time high. There's been over 1,400 people. And I think there's just been a lot of pressure put on the coaching staffs to retain some of those players. And even as you talked about with Amari Gaynor and some of those other guys, there haven't been a whole lot of attrition for Florida State so far. Could definitely be in the future, but definitely looks like Florida State could retain most of those guys, and we'll see 2 or 3 of these guys that are coming back, hopefully, or will they test the NFL waters?
Definitely agreed. James, what are your first thoughts on this Battles In NIL collective?
I think it's great. I think when people say, actually, one of the things I learned in business is that there's no such thing as a saturated market. just means there's more competition, and more competition is good. And there are things that others do differently than others, and like for example, the jokes are last thing FSU needs is another podcast, but it hasn't stopped Sporadics from being a really, really good podcast. I think everybody has something different. I was actually joking about Nolecast being like Frazier. It's kind of dry, a little bit boring if you don't like stats and stuff, but I like it though. I like Frazier. It's one of my favorite TV shows. But and just to see a guy like Ingram be able to go out and be able to use his marketing and media background to be able to help get guys connected, and then it's truly about connecting these young men with the guys who are the movers and shakers at FSU. So I have to give them props, and if it's another avenue and outlet to get these young men and women, young men because it's only football only, but to get these young men paid. God bless. Who am I to hate on somebody with that? But strategically, it's very exciting because a lot of us know, and we've talked about it. We've done shows on who's coming back and who's not. But it's exciting to see Trey Benson come back now. It's exciting to finally hear Jordan Travis come back, and even some of the guys that people are wondering if they're going to transfer, like a Portier. He just announced that he's coming back. Malcolm Ray announced that he's coming back through them. See him. Offensive linemen like Maurice Smith. Chris, you remember when we were over the summer when we were hanging out with Mo, and Mo was like, "Man, I'm the starting center, and nobody's even hollering at me." But to see guys, go after all of these cats, I like it, man. And I'm excited for another good year. Winning attracts money, and money attracts money. Those are the things that I've always learned.
Well, James just came, and named a few, and so I'm going to reiterate. There's going to be a couple more that I name. I'm not naming all of them, but I am naming some decent names to be brought up. Battles End has announced multiple players coming back. One obviously being Benson, Pat Payton, Tatum Bethune, Kalen DeLoach, Maurice Smith, and you can say that they helped announce with Jordan Travis. But Jordan Travis came out with a separate video, but he did end up signing with Battles End. And there was more that they had obviously signed to Battles End. So I'm really excited for what Battles End brings to the NIL market. I think that it's important what they're trying to do. Just getting basically just scratching the surface on what they really are. And I can say that Ingram's he's got a reputation of doing things quite well, and he's got a pretty good reputation. So I don't think he's got his name on something or he's going to run something into, that's not going to be successful for Florida State because he cares about the school. But what is y'all's first initial reaction off of the new transfer from Miami, Darrell Jackson? At one point he was all for Florida State, and he ends up committing to Miami, and that line Cuban down there didn't probably pay right. So now he's transferred back. He's a little bit closer to his mom that's sick. What are y'all's thoughts on what he can do for Florida State on the field? Is he a rotational piece, or is he a true starter that can maybe ruffle feathers?
When you look at his stats are very similar to Coop. I think Coop had 7 tackles on the year, and he had 11. And when I've watched some of his film, and you see what he does a really good job. He's a big man. He's a large individual, but he does a good job of using his arms, extending, and being able to take on double teams. Which I think if you're able to get that, or even a little bit more, because he's a redshirt sophomore, so he's like the same class as Farmer. So he'll be I believe a junior next year. Is that what? So he'll be a junior. Mm-hmm. So you can have this for 2 more years, which again can help make your linebacker core better, because that's one less lineman that's coming up on them. But at the same time, help create mismatches for a 3 technique, like with the Fabian Lovett if he decides to come back. If he can command a double team, then that just makes your ends. That means they're solo blocked by tackles, which means, again, across the line, you can project and expect more. So hopefully we shall see. Also, for the pass game, when you're going against all these guys who like to throw the ball and they're scrambling, so that means they're throwing it on a rope or low, he's 6'6". big target. Guy can get up, get his hands up. So you also have the opportunity for more batted balls.
Taylor, I'm going to ask you this one. 4-star 2023 athlete Cameron Robinson from Virginia will be visiting Tallahassee this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
What do you know about him, and what is it that he could bring to the table for Florida State?
I will say this. I know a lot of people are wanting to get more linebackers in the rotation. You saw Amari Gaynor, and our depth at the linebacker position is not great. But we do run a lot of 4-2-5, so it doesn't really necessarily believe in that regard to have so many linebackers on your roster this year, because you do have a Tatum Bethune and Kalen DeLoach and guys like that are coming back. But when you're thinking about it long term with Cameron, I think there's a situation now where Mike Norvell visited him. He is very serious on what he wants to do. You've already got a guy like Blake Nicholson and also DeMarco Ward that are committed in the class. I think that's very important for Florida State going there. I think they are open to taking that third linebacker. And I don't necessarily think this is going to be a visit where he goes and visits and then he commits and pops off right after. I think this is more of a slow developing before early signing period. I think this is something he's going to have to go back home and think about a little bit more. But I do think this is a situation where Florida State's kind of trending a little bit later in the process, understanding the need at linebacker and what they have to do after this season. And I think they're really going to try to get into this recruitment pretty often.
I like that breakdown quite a bit. Offensive line transfer, which is a portal guy, of course. Is it Jeremiah Byers? He's on an official visit from the 9th to the 11th.
Yeah, he is a guy that they really, really like, especially at the right tackle position. I think he's got a PFF grade of 81 so far. He started all 12 games last season for UTEP, or this past season. Then he also started 13 games before that. So he's had that starting experience. I believe he's played in like 34 games so far. So this is a guy that's going to have 2 years of experience. We all talk about the Robert Scott coming back with Battle's End. That's great. I do think he's an NFL talent and will be eventually. But you got to look at that right side. Will it be a Darius Washington? Will it be a Julian Armella? Will it even be a Bless Harris that's coming off of injury? I even talked about it before. Would you slide him inside and then have a Byers on the outside at the right tackle position? I think you could possibly look at that. An experienced right tackle that's got all conference honors. I think that's definitely a get that Florida State definitely has to take advantage of this weekend.
And James, I'm going to take one of these questions from the YouTube watcher down here at the bottom. I like this show. After watching JT ball out, are y'all concerned about not having any dual threat quarterbacks recruited?
No. Like I love quoting rivals when it's something that makes sense. Dan Mullen had a great quote about Kyle Trask. And it's not like he said, I don't need a running quarterback. I need a willing runner. And what does that mean? That means I need a guy who's not afraid to at least go give me 7 to 10 yards, because that's what, yes, it's great that Jordan Travis can do what he did against Florida, where he breaks 7 tackles and then scampers up the sideline to what should have been a touchdown. But what's just as effective as that is getting a 10-yard or a 15-yard run. Or it's 3rd and 3, and I know that he's capable of getting the 4-5. You don't need the embellished 40 stats. Like I remember somebody said that Chubba Purdy ran a 4.4, and I was like, maybe it's West Coast time, Pacific Standard Time or something, because that ain't a 4.4 on the East Coast. I've seen enough 4.4s and 4. Anybody who runs, I'm gonna even go extreme. Anybody who runs sub 5 flat is one of the fastest human beings on the planet. Doesn't mean they're Olympic level. It just means you're one of the fastest humans on the planet. If a quarterback can actually get to 5 seconds and get us 5 to 10 yards, I think he's great. And I think Duffy has that capability of it. We've seen Tate Rodemaker be able to do it, even though I still think he's going to be a cold-ass insurance salesman one day. But we know he's capable of coming in and winning a big game. He's done it. Luke, obviously you're not looking at recruiting. Go follow my stuff with Luke Cromenhall, our 2024 commit. His first highlight from last year going toward the state championship is him trucking a guy. Like and his daddy's a former linebacker, so he appears a little bit of he's good. He ain't like Dan Kendra, but he's good. And then I haven't seen much Brock Glenn, but I do know we've got him in there, but I believe that all these guys are athletic. We ain't got time as long as Tom Brady not back there. But if they're like Tom Brady athletically, but like Tom Brady mentally, God bless.
Well, this is what my initial thoughts are. This has been Florida State's most successful year in the Mike Norvell era. And this is the least that we've seen Jordan Travis run in a season. Now, he's been obviously efficient when he takes off running, just like he did against Florida. But he hasn't been having to run for, so to say, his life and have to make something out of nothing. Most of the time that he took off running were design runs. So we were very successful without him really taking off all the time. So I don't think that you're too worried about not having a dual threat quarterback. I think that it's more set up for the pocket passer. And like James just said, willing to run. As long as they're willing to take off if they have to, not necessarily that's the first initial go-to. So I don't think there's any concern there. And it's going to be hard to say that you're going to go get another Jordan Travis. That kid's a freak athlete. He might not be the greatest quarterback of all time, but he is a freak of nature as an athlete. He's a slimy little joker. You can't get to him. But Taylor, do any of these names pop out to you? And is it surprising when I say this? Noes that have entered the transfer portal: Sidney Williams, George Wilson, Chambry Jackson, Keyshawn Helton, Jarrett Jackson, Rod Orr, Amari Gaynor. And if I'm missing somebody, it's fine. I'm just naming a few. Do any of those names surprise you that they hit the transfer portal?
Not at all. And I know everybody's going to look and point towards Jarrett Jackson because he played earlier in the season. You started to see his role diminish a little bit more because there were guys that were stepping up, like a Joshua Farmer, a Malcolm Ray, guys like that were stepping up. And even a Daniel Lyons, who's kind of breathing down his neck as a true freshman. I think you're looking at some of those guys. And, Sidney Williams is kind of disappointing because he played really well in practice and he participated pretty well and he wanted to be successful. But when you're looking at guys like Shaheem Brown and other guys like that, and especially at that safety position, are you going to be a reserve the rest of your career? Or are you going to go somewhere and potentially be a starter at a group of 5 level? That's just something you're going to have to ask yourself. And when you're looking at some of these guys, not to bash on the guys, but some of those guys are group of 5 starters. And will they be able to contribute at other levels? Maybe so. I hope so. And I definitely wish them the best of luck. It's kind of the same thing with Keyshawn Helton. He got hurt and it kind of ruined some of his talents. The guys love him. The coaches love him. Everybody loves him. But the fact of the matter is he's not the same player as he once was. And now you're going to have to face the harsh reality of it. And now you're going to have to go into the transfer portal, find a new home, and hopefully get back to the right level.
I can assure you, to the person that wrote this down at the bottom, there were 3 key people that were Jordan Travis fans at the beginning of this season. I've been a Jordan Travis fan since he came to this school. I thought he was the guy that was going to get us out of what situation we were in. I'm stating that he's not considered one of the greatest pocket passers of all time. I'm not saying that he's not a good or even great quarterback at the college level, because he is. Plenty of respect on Jordan Travis's name from me, trust me. And moving on just a little bit, James, do any of the names, like me and you and Taylor have talked about this multiple times, like a lot of people are, concerned as fans when they see people entering the transfer portal, not understanding that you need this attrition. To bring other guys in, people have to leave. Mm-hmm. You're either getting recruited over or you're bringing in someone that is better fit for the system, like Amari Gaynor. I love the kid to death. I never wanted to see him leave, but he just doesn't fit the system as well as the Kalen DeLoaches, the Tatum Bethune. He's just not that style linebacker. So we would much rather see him go somewhere and succeed and potentially get to the next level instead of sitting here being behind guys that he's not going to get as many snaps because of. If you truly care about these athletes and you see what Coach Norvell came out and said about Amari Gaynor, Keyshawn Helton. It's all support guys. This is all business. There's all types of love for these guys that are transferring out. This isn't a we're pulling your scholarship, you got to leave because you're no good. That's not the case. But what's best for the athlete is also at this point what's best for Florida State. And Amari Gaynor staying here and being behind someone else and not getting the play time and in a system that he doesn't really work well in, it's not doing the kid a service. And it's not fair to the athlete to continue to hold him back when he could go and ball out at just another school that runs that system. A 3-4 is perfect for him, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's better for him to move on. Do I want him to? No, but it makes more room for other guys to come in, like tight end Kyle Morlock. His official visit is December 9th. Is that tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
What are y'all's thoughts on him particularly? Do you see what everybody's claiming to see there, or what are your thoughts, Taylor?
I really like it. I really like both of them. I do like him and Jaheim Bell. I think both fit a need. Jaheim Bell, and I'll discuss this question up here too, the crystal ball prediction to Florida State won't really give it away if he's going anywhere, because I don't want to make that decision for him. That's going to have to be on him. But I do think Florida State sits in a really, really good spot. And I think there's a situation where you're looking at the tight end position, and Jaheim Bell is not a traditional tight end. He's not going to be an inline blocker. He's more of a slot receiver. Put him on the outside, put him at running back, put him at H-back, put him anywhere, and you'll do successful things on offense. And I think that's what you're getting out of Bell in terms of situation. Now, with him coming out of South Carolina, the reasons he didn't get any opportunities at South Carolina was partially the reason why he was transferring, also because of some NIL opportunities. I think when you're coupling both of those together, I think that's a situation where Florida State sits in a really good spot in NIL purposes and also playtime purposes, because Cam McDonald is gone. That is your one most productive tight end that you've had on the roster for the past couple of years. You had Jordan Wilson. He left for the NFL and, lost out on his eligibility at that point. Marquise Douglas is a nice piece, but can he be a consistent starter? That's kind of the problem that you're kind of faced with. Will it be a Jackson West? Will it be a Brian Courtney? The list goes on and on with some of the tight ends that we have on the roster, but can anybody be a consistent piece? And I think that's what Florida State's really been missing. And I do think Florida State will take both of those guys. And I think it will be absolutely dangerous, because I believe, if I remember correctly, Morlock has, I think it was 463 yards last season. He's totaled and had about 900 yards through his 3-year career at Shorter. It's a Division II school, but it is a successful program. He's been a successful piece in that offense, and I think he has to be utilized more. Because, like I said, when you're looking at receiving numbers for tight ends, they don't produce a whole lot of receiving numbers. It's not like you're going to have a 1,000-yard tight end receiver. It's not Brock Bowers or anybody like that. It's going to be a special talent. And I think Florida State, if you couple both those guys together, the offense could really be humming at a high level.
Yeah, and I'm extremely excited because my guy's coming back, Big Rob, on the offensive line. I love Robert Scott to death. It's hard to say he's like a little brother to me because he's so much bigger than me, but he's younger than me. So I'm trying to teach him ropes on some other things. I love Rob to death. I think he needs this last year to develop more. And he will be an NFL guy. I truly believe that. But, James, what would it mean to Florida State, not just if, but when Jared Verse decides to come back? How big is that for Florida State?
I mean, that's, again, I think one of the biggest recruiting things that Mike Norvell will have is having guys who actually want to play for the program, which is something that's kind of missing in college football. And I don't think it's missing. I just don't think it's reported in college football, where people are talking about just the love of the game, because so many people skip bowl games, which I don't understand, because, I mean, I understand it, but bowl games were fun. That was the first time I've gone to some of these cities and been able to live my best life. But if you see a guy who actually can go get a check, whether it's a first-round pick or a second-round pick, the odds are you're going to be a millionaire next year. And as my mom used to always say, you can always go back to college. You can't always be a millionaire. But to see them forego that, to obviously for some selfish reasons, to increase their chances or odds, but to go and just have something that you're going to have memories and that you're going to talk about it forever. And I think a lot of that goes to Norvell is one of the most strategic systems kind of guys I've ever seen. So if you do the victory walk with the former players, what's crazy about it is, as a guy who's gone to numerous ones, my generation hasn't come back yet like that. I see David Castillo, I see some of my teammates, but I don't see a lot of us. But what I saw almost every time were those guys who played on the 69 to the 70s team. The original four came to the Louisiana Lafayette game. The original four were at that one. But like almost everybody in their class comes all the time, and they say it with pride, and they talk about this, and you'll see you see when Boucher goes and talks to I forgot, somebody came in, or you see when Shade Tree was talking and saw some of the guys who were there with him. So I think that kind of might have got these guys to believe, like, man, this is us 20, 30 years from now.
Yeah.
Like, do I want to come back and brag about a 5-7 team? Or do I want to come and talk about the year that we went from 5-7 to 9-3, and the year we went from 9-3 to go to 11-1 or whatever the case may be? Because that's more exciting to talk about how you went from tragedy to triumph and all the down times and the high times. And they're going to be able to preach easier with recruiting than I can. Like, I don't know what it was like to not have Doak rocking or not be able to go out and have a good time. They know what it's like to not have anybody in Doak. And then what it's like when you win and now Doak is packed, or what it was like when I didn't have any in, when nobody wanted to even give us any kind of NIL deal. And now, people are, trying to bang down our doors, allegedly, whatever the case may be, to get us to stay. So I think Verse is obviously being the most NFL ready player on the roster, deciding to come back really kickstarts everything. And then if you could just go out and you just get everybody with this focus of not taking shine away from each other, but getting each other to the NFL, to the promised land of winning championships, I think, he's going to go down. He has the ability to go down as one of those guys who people remember turning the program back around.
I got a question for y'all, and I'm going to post this to both of y'all. You talked about Jared Verse having the chance to either go to the NFL or come back to Florida State. In the situation of Fabian Lovett, a guy that's been super successful in this Florida State defense when he's been healthy. He's missed 5 or 6 games this season. He's got a smaller child that's had some issues and trying to get back into that and trying to support him at a high level. And you're looking at a guy that on a defensive team that, had a 2-yard per carry on defense, and then turns around when he's out 5.3 yards per carry. So it's a big difference when he's not out there. And you saw the defensive tackle room and how that depth has been going through. Do you think it's more important that Fabian Lovett comes back rather than a Jared Verse? I'm not saying that Jared Verse is a better player, because he's definitely not. I think that Jared Verse is a better player than Fabian Lovett, but his importance to this team, I just don't know if you can really factor it in, because he's so important to what they have on the team so far.
You need Fabian. You need your D tackles. That's where you're where you need the most development. So like keeping a guy like him does help, because then at least you know what you have. That's one key person that you know what he brings to the table, as opposed to having a bunch of other guys that, which is nothing wrong with it, but are all upside guys and there's no proof in their production, particularly when your first game is going to be going up against LSU. So like I would really, you could use that. So I think, again, it's Mike Norvell's greatest recruiting isn't in the portal, isn't in the high school ranks. It's keeping this team together so that he can build upon what he had and build upon in 23 what he did in 22. And
my answer to this is going to be a little bit different. It's just because it can be debatable toward what y'all are both saying. I 100% agree with both of you. If you can get Fabo to come back, you absolutely want him to come back, because you 100% know what you have in Fabo and what he does do. But I will say that I don't think a lot of people, because he hasn't got to play yet and there's others, but Io is going to be a big, big help to the defensive tackle depth. This kid's, he had to sit out this year due to reclassifying as a 22. There were some reasons that he had to sit out this year, but he's practiced with this team every practice. He has been there for all the ups and downs. He just wasn't eligible to play this year. When this young man steps on the field and the other teams and the fans, whether it be the other fans and our fans, see what this young man can do and how disruptive he is, I personally think Fabo is important because we need depth, but I don't think we fall off as much as we did this past year. Like when Fabo was hurt, like you said, it went from 3 something to 5.3. So there was obviously we missed Fabo big time. I don't think if he does come back and Fabo goes out for any portion or reason, I don't think if Io's in there that we drop off that much. I think that we contain better than what we did this past season. And the only reason I'm saying that is because of the offensive linemen that Io has went up against and them to tell all of us that guy is going to be a huge name here at Florida State. He is beyond his years already, and he's already disrupting what we do. From what I was told in practices, Io would cause Jordan Travis to be the most uncomfortable during those practice 11-on-11s, that this kid was in the backfield more so than anyone else. So I think that he's going to be a secret weapon, so to speak, that people don't know about. Unfortunately, after the first game or two, he'll no longer be a secret, and everybody will see it. There's quite a few people that watch our show, but I'm not speaking to 80,000 people right now that come setting dope that'll be able to see what this young man can do. But is he more important than getting Verse back? I think Verse brings a different electrify to the whole defense, an attitude, so to say. And I think that with what Norvell and staff bringing in at defensive tackle, we would be okay if he doesn't come back. But we would be obviously a lot better if Fabo came back. But if Jared Verse doesn't come back, I don't know that we have a defensive end on this roster that is as electrifying as Jared Verse. So it sucks to lose either one of them. It really sucks to lose both. But I would say that I would rather keep Jared Verse than Fabo, just based off of what I know at defensive tackle that's supposed to be coming. But my question to rebuttal right back to you, Taylor, which I got to pull it back up because the question that you just asked is like I've been going back and forth with this defensive tackle, defensive end situation ever since I didn't know if Fabo was coming back. I didn't know if Jared Verse was coming back. So I was worried that we were going to be depleted pretty bad on the defensive line. But how big of a deal is it? How big of a deal is it if we do pull in, let's say two more recruits, flip, not unsigned or uncommitted, but flip two more. I won't say their names, but Florida State is on track to flip a few guys from other schools right now. Mm-hmm. How big of a deal do you think this fan base, or how big it's going to be for college football when these names pop on who they are? How big of a deal do you feel like that'll be for Florida State?
I think it'll be a pretty big deal in terms of just the skill sets and just the talent you're bringing into the university. I mean, even speaking from just an uncommitted prospect type of deal, I mean, you look at a guy that's deciding on December 16th, and Reuben Bain, the kid from Miami, a 4-star defensive end. He had 29 sacks this past season, 29 sacks the year before, 17 sacks the year before that. That kid is a sack machine. And you talk about Jared Verse potentially leaving, and you get a guy like that in your program, plus you get a Patrick Payton, plus you get a Keldrick Faulk, guys like that in the program, you got something scary. And that's the thing that Mike Norvell is kind of unleashing his untapped potential in recruiting. Everybody was talking about the recruiting efforts of Mike Norvell so far. 3-6 season, 5-7 season, as James talked about before, doesn't really spell anything of elite talent coming to your program. But once you see that 9-3 record, and once you see the ascension of a program going from 9-3 to potentially something like that, that is where it starts to kind of buzz the program. So you're getting committed guys potentially flipping over to Florida State, plus you're getting some uncommitted guys that you thought were going to be, okay, Miami locks, Alabama locks, whatever they are, and kind of coming together at Florida State. Man, that would be something.
Yeah, and that's obviously we at Spirit Addicts, and Taylor being with he's a part of Spirit Addicts. James is a part of Spirit Addicts, and they obviously have their own things going. Taylor's got Norvell Central going. James, what do you not have going on? That's really the question. But what I'm getting at is he just dropped his first article for fifth quarter, and I don't know how long. I don't know how long it's been since he wrote one, but this is how I'm going to put this. For a former fullback at Florida State, one that he comes on the show, we've become pretty close. We can consider ourselves business partners, friends, and etc. But when you have a former athlete write in a text message form to me and Taylor and says, "Tell me what y'all think," for someone that has went and bled, I don't know if you ever cried, but sweated, did MAC drills on Bobby Bowden's field, to turn and ask myself, I don't know how Taylor feels about it, but myself, what do you think of my article? Basically, be honest. If there's something wrong or whatever, to respect our opinions enough to even ask that question, it really let me today. I got to figure out how much of a big deal Spirit Addicts has become because of a former athlete that has done this and has wrote multiple articles that have went viral to ask us how was it. It was just very surprising. It let me figure out, hey, Spirit Addicts has actually done something. We're actually doing something that really matters in this media platform. So it was those things make me happier. And a lot of people probably won't believe this, but for former athletes to respect our opinions, or for former athletes to want to be around us at tailgates and stuff to that nature, means a hell of a lot more to me than a $10,000 or $15,000 check from whomever. Now, a lot of people are going to say that's crazy, and I'd take the 10 or 15 grand other than someone's opinion. But that's what these former, current, and always Noles, that's what they mean to me. So to get that, it really just opens my eyes to, we've actually put the work in and people actually respect us. So I'm extremely satisfied with where we're going. When Taylor jumped on about a year ago with Spirit Addicts, I told him, I was like, man, I'm just trying to be a positive outlet, just like what you're doing on Instagram. I don't know if we're going to have 5 people listen to us or if we're going to have 500. And that's as high as I went. I said 500. And now we're in the times of there's 30 some odd thousand people watching on TV. There's 18 or so thousand watching on YouTube. And I've had over 2 million downloads in the first full physical year of the podcast. So for that many people to listen to us and support us and respect us, I never thought that was going to happen. I told Taylor that when it initially started, we started seeing that rise, I was completely beside myself. I was like, there's no way this is happening. And then I continue to share certain numbers with James about reels that we put out. It's at 200 and some odd thousand views, stuff to that nature. It's just wild to me that we go from 0 to 100 within a year's time. And you've gotten Taylor that has broke milestones as far as, I remember when I seen him, I think you were at like 8,000 followers when we first started talking. I don't know if y'all know how hard it is to get followers on Instagram, but it's ridiculously retarded. It's hard. Excuse my language, but it's not easy. He's sitting over at 15,000. James has been trying to get his damn Twitter back for I don't know how long it's been, but there's all of this that's been built up of what followers that all 3 of us have together. And not one of us are like more worried about our individual growth than we are as what we grow together. So I really appreciate what everybody's. I'm getting a lot of stuff that y'all aren't seeing. So this is why this conversation went here. There was someone that wrote uh, a message to me and said, Chris, James, and Taylor wanted to let all of y'all know that I've been watching y'all since y'all been together. Started watching Chris before Taylor came on. Once Taylor came on, I've continued to watch. Once James came on, I've continued to watch. I assure you guys, I've never missed an episode nor any of your content that you've individually put out since knowing who y'all were. I don't want to share my name over social media, but if y'all want to contact me afterwards, please do so. I was just diagnosed with stage 3 brain cancer this morning. And what y'all have done for me in positivity is the only thing that keeps me willing to continue or to be willing to fight off such a deadly disease. But because of the things that you guys do and continuously work for us as Florida State fans to get us the information, not only get it to us as quick as you can, but get it to us correctly, really means a lot and it actually makes me want to fight to continue to live so I can watch not only Florida State play, but you guys tell us about it. So that's why that conversation went where it just did, because what that person just wrote me, I have no idea how I react to getting stage 3 brain cancer. I couldn't tell you. That's insane within itself. And for someone to say that because we're talking about Florida State, which is a school they love, motivates them to continue to want to live, I don't know what to say, y'all. I'm kind of lost for words, but we will do everything in our power to, whether it be good vibes, prayers, whatever you need from us, we will do our best to support you while you fight off such a just. Everybody hates this disease. It's touched everybody one way or the other. I've had a grandmother pass away from it, so I don't know what you're going through as an individual, but I will tell you that cancer absolutely sucks, and I know that wholeheartedly. If we're going to move on a little bit, and I really, y'all, that kind of messed me up, but it is what it is, and I'm going to continue on. They say the show must go on, so we're going to go on. Is there any particular portal guys that are in the portal right now that we could give a hint on that we should be watching out for? Taylor, do you have? You don't have to name all of them, but name a couple that you would keep an eye on.
I would say 2 guys that I would look at is Colorado offensive tackle Casey Roderick is a guy that on Twitter he put that basically his location was Tallahassee. I think that was the situation there where Florida State fans can kind of connect the dots a little bit. And UCF cornerback Devontae Brown. He's actually brothers with Damari Brown. He's a 4-star cornerback that you might need to watch out for, but it's just 2 people to kind of watch out for. Devontae is actually going on an official visit, I believe this weekend, if I remember correctly, to Florida State. So that is something to watch out for. Florida State is very mindful of what's going on with that, and they really want to add more defensive backs, especially with Sam McCall being out of the program at this point, and some other guys that could potentially kind of get leapfrogged in that rotation. They want to strengthen that cornerback and safety kind of room, and I think that could be a situation where Florida State really gets involved.
To the Taylor that's asking the question, just like the gentleman that Taylor is talking about, if any of those guys commit to come to Florida State, those are huge splashes. And if you throw in the Kyle Morlock as one that would hit, that's a huge splash. There's no doubt about there's big splashes coming. The Cypress kid from Virginia, absolutely. Those are the types of splashes that Taylor.
That's a real splash because I don't even know if Florida State has enough firepower to beat Ohio State out for him.
Right.
But if they get him on campus, that would be scary.
Yeah, I completely agree. James, is there any particular position in the portal or for recruiting matters that you think Florida State should be attacking? Or if they aren't attacking it, why would you say they're not? Is the question that I was asked.
Still got to attack linebacker and corner. One, you can never have enough DBs. In today's game, it's only one way to beat spread, and everybody thinks you're running man coverage, but you're running quarters, which quarters basically looks like man coverage up to a point. So you need 4 guys that can individually cover. That's why if Jamie Robinson does indeed declare, the loss of him is that not only do you have a guy who's a safety that's a good tackler, but a guy who can also be your nickel corner. So there's a lot of things that he does well, but that's why the Brown is like a double whammy. You get him, the odds are really, really good that you're going to get his little brother. Like, they're not going to play at rival schools, but like, you just, kind of tips the hand a little bit. But in linebacker, you see Tatum Bethune has a great relationship with the UCF guy, Randy Shannon being there, knowing what those guys can do, him seeing what Tatum Bethune is doing. Now, the only difference is I think I don't know if he has 1 or 2 years left to play. But that's where we really do need that. But I do think if we're able to get the young man from Virginia, I think that kind of kills our linebacker recruiting right there. We're solid for that, because really all we're doing is creating depth and replacing a position that's opened up because Amari Gainer's left. Where I don't see us really going unless something really crazy happens, because we've got a lot of traction in 24 and 25 in this position group, would be wide receiver. Dugans has done a phenomenal job. I remember Dugans telling me, not this past spring, but 2 springs ago, say, JC, everybody's getting on. They read the stuff more than what they should. That's my opinion. Now, I joke with people, there's 2 people you'll never see me give an opinion on a social media site, on a podcast, or anything else. And that's Dugans and Odell. And that's because I got to see those guys. And I actually know them, not just see them, we're Noes. And I'm going to always keep it positive as I can. But Dugans did say, JC, man, like, I just got here. They got to give me an opportunity to flip my room and to be able to do what I do. Well, dadgum. This is his 4th year. Tags last year, Norvell's 3rd. He got 3 recruiting classes in, completely flipped the room and got the guys that he wanted in. And now when you look at who he's bringing, like Hakeem, Goldie, if they're able to get a kid like Mike, guys like Micah Mays is a 4-star guy that could bring in that gives you that depth. Next year, I can't think of the kid from Texas, his name. There's a 5-star receiver from Texas. That's it. This is the crazy part. People love the offense so much that they're wondering why they haven't been offered. Like, hey, what gives? Why hasn't anybody come and contacted me? That's when you don't have to go out and put tweets, recruits, my DMs open. Nah, you see the proof of performance. The POP is all that matters, baby. But I think wide receiver is where you'll see us be strategic, and same thing with quarterback, but that's an easy one. But if you find a guy that you really believe that can provide some depth, and you can get him a PWO, or you can get him maybe some NIL, because NIL is what balances out now. You can bring in a guy that just wants to get a degree, and you can give him a little bit of money so it doesn't cost him to go to school. But if you can get that, then I think it's a good thing.
I want to take this time, y'all, and give a huge shout out to a guy that I've been a fan of for a couple of years now. His family means a lot to me. He finally got his first offer, and that's Jazel Riley IV. Extremely proud of that young man. He's continued to go and fight adversity no matter what. Tremendous leader, great young man. And whoever gets this kid is going to end up having, in what my opinion is, I think they're going to have a huge contender for quite a while. He's not about NIL money. He's not about the new age stuff. He was raised old school. His pops was a athlete in college as well. So he's built on wanting someone to believe in him as much as he believes in himself. So huge shout out to him. If you haven't checked on him, I've tagged Coach Prime quite a few times, because the kid's in Colorado. It would be cool for him to stay, close to home. Coach Prime's got his son there as a quarterback, and it falls off from there, from what I understand. And Jazel will be a true freshman this year, and eventually your son's going to graduate. So, Coach Prime, give Jazel a look before he decides to jump off somewhere else and leave the state, because you said you were looking for dogs. I think he is one. He's got plenty of film out there for you to decide yourself. And if you have him on as a visit, you can really find out what type of dog he is. And with that, guys, We're extremely excited for not only the 2023 season. We're extremely excited seeing the guys that are coming back, the guys that we're pulling from the transfer portal. Now that the recruiting, I don't care what anybody says, beating Miami and beating Florida in the same year has amped up this recruiting, in my opinion. I think it actually meant something more than what people thought. Regardless if you're flipping guys from Miami to Florida State, as long as you beat Miami's ass bad enough for the kid that's potentially going to jump over to Alabama, the the cornerback or whatever it is that went the 5-star guy. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Kamani, that kid.
Kamani.
I don't want Alabama to get him either, but I'd rather see Alabama get him than Miami. Because if he goes to Alabama, at least I know the kid's career is not going to be put in the shambles. At least he'll have a shot. So it's not always about who we pull from Miami or stop. It's more about who we stop from going to Miami by kicking their ass on the field. So with that said, is there any worries? Florida State offensive lineman Lloyd Willis enters the transfer portal. I don't know when Taylor just dropped this. When did you drop this?
About 10 minutes ago or so.
Okay, so Taylor dropped this. I want Taylor to talk a little bit about Lloyd and what it actually means.
Lloyd's always been a project kind of guy, 3-star prospect out of the class of 20, I believe. Remember correctly? It was the first year of Norvell's recruiting cycle. He was a guy out of the Miami area that really just didn't develop properly as you thought. I mean, 6'7", 300 pounds, you thought was going to be successful in what he did. You thought he may be able to be that type of person to step up, but they ended up kind of recruiting over him at this point. Robert Scott has been a guy that in that class has been very successful, but when you look at Lloyd Willis, he's been more along the lines of, okay, can he develop by year 3, year 4, year 5? And he just really hasn't been consistent. And I think that's the biggest thing with him was consistency. Now, when you're looking at it, Florida State's getting, Lucas Simmons coming into the program, and I think he's going to be a bona fide starter even year 1, year 2. You got a Julian Armella that's sitting there as a reserve and going to potentially be up there. You got Robert Scott. You got guys like that. And as I talk about with these other transfers, they're looking at that room and they're saying, okay, how are we able to kind of get back and be kind of a productive player when we got guys that are kind of jumping over us? I mean, it may be a situation where he goes to a group of 5 school, like I said before, and be a starter there. I think that could be a really good get for him. Maybe an FIU type deal, go back home a little bit closer. I think could be something that bodes well for him.
Appreciate that. James, let people know that you were busy today. I think you went and got to see the actual spot we're having the tailgate at. I unfortunately couldn't make it over there. But what was it like? Did you get to see what you wanted to see? And is it legitimately where we're having it?
Yeah, I mean it's going to be we're going to need a bigger boat if people continue to push it, and that's what we want. So what the goal is now is we have our space. It's not indoor outdoor as I thought, but it's still enough space. We'll have tents and we'll have TVs and you can spread out. What happens is they will shut down Church Street at a certain time, and it'll be basically where you can just walk around and different things like that. But what I'm going to do, what we're in negotiations for right now, is getting the lot literally right across. So we'll have 2 lots that's right there. If you're looking for somewhere to park, I don't even know if it's on for sale yet, but lot 3 is literally, if you look up lot 3, that's where we're at. Like you'll be able to find us. So I don't want to hear that mess like we were in the Sugar Bowl, like we were in Louisiana. I didn't know where Poitras was, but I know where we're at now. We are literally Church in like Nuna or something like that. But I got the directions. We have the address that's on there. But the ladies also we're going to have 15 parking spots. She's going to tell me what the cost is. But when I tell you, you step out of your car, you're at the Citrus Bowl. That's how close it is with that. And I have the lot locked up for next year. So I'm going to tell you this. If you get a ticket for this one, you're going to get a discount for the next one if you pay relatively quick. But we're going to be front row and center right across the street from the from the bowl game. I'm not bowl game, from the first game LSU versus Florida State. So I got a chance to already see all those things. I got excited. It's awesome. It's going to be a really good time. Talk to Shannon. I think we're going to have a seafood side. So if you like bringing Jacksonville crab boils and stuff like that. So if you like that, if you're allergic, don't go over there. But if you like that, we got it. And then we're going to have straight barbecue on the other side. Brisket, ribs, chicken. We will also have hot dogs and all that other good stuff for you for the kiddos too. So please RSVP so we can make sure that we have it planned right for you guys. And then also Game Day Vodka will be providing some nice spirits as well as ABC Fine Wine and Spirits, always providing the good vibes there. So
absolutely. And James, you did state that this was the best reaction that we've had to a tailgate in the first week this season, correct?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
So
like normally I put it up and then we don't really hear anything until the week of the game. Even with LSU was like 30, 40 people up until I left to go to New Orleans, and then it just exploded. So so just like even the critiques, which I always welcome those. Just imagine you fly from Jacksonville, Florida to New Orleans with only 40 people. I prepared for enough, but I knew I only had 40 paid customers, and then all of a sudden 300 people show up out the blue. It's very difficult to prepare properly for that when you're not from the state and you actually haven't been in the state since 2005. So like I had no idea where I was going, but this one right here, I think we've got a lot of contingency plans. So just know this, the price right now is $50. If you have a child or you don't drink, hit me up offline. We'll make sure we'll figure out a price for you. Any kid under 10 years old, don't just bring them, please. Don't want kids to not be the reason why you come fellowship and have a good time. If they're under 10 years old, they're not going to eat enough food to be able to put a dent in anything anyway. After Chris, I think we're going to do, me and CJ were talking, we're going to probably raise that price on December 26th. So catch it now. And then if you wait until the day of, it'll be $65 if you wait till the day of. I'm just going to tell you that. We're going to punish you for being lazy. So like just get it done and so that we can properly plan. That's all.
Absolutely. Everybody, I got about 2.5 minutes left. Be on the lookout because there's a couple more videos that are going to come up after this. Make sure that you check out Taylor's YouTube page here in the next 30 minutes to an hour, and then make sure you check mine as well about this around the same time. Don't care which one you check first, but check them out. You can find Taylor anywhere at Norvell Central or at Central Norvell on Twitter. You can find James at Big Game James _36 on social media. Guys, if you don't mind, fall off. I will finish up real quick. Taylor, I will see you shortly. Well, everybody, I appreciate you. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the love. I love each and every one of you as well. I really appreciate what this gentleman brought to my attention as far as us motivating him to it makes him feel better. And he appreciates what we do as far as covering Florida State. I appreciate him for being a part of Sporadics and obviously a fan of Florida State University. This is going to be one of the best seasons ending here on December 29th.